So Destined Rivals has released, and all the Tera Box players are in shambles because we all think that Shaymin has killed the deck, and I'm here to tell you that it has not. And I'll give you a few good reasons on why it hasn't. And obviously this set did come with Watchtower. However, Watchtower doesn't do too much. I've played probably about 50 games online, and I have not run into a single Watchtower. If we take a look at the top 5 decks, or even like just Dragapult and all those decks, they don't run Watchtower. None of these decks actually run Watchtower, so right now at least, we don't have to worry about that. However, a lot of them do run Shaymin. Shaymin is kind of like the biggest card from the set for most people, because a lot of these decks, such as Dragapult, such as God of War, and any deck that relies on these evolution Pokemon now has bench protection. And that is something that is really important because we usually use our Torrential Pump to get rid of said bench. And yeah, that's our gimmick. If you guys follow my Twitter, you'll know that I've been playing a lot of Tera Box in the past and recently, and I don't plan on stopping. I'm definitely going to keep playing Tera Box in the near future, and also hopefully, if I'm able to keep it working, for the Worlds format as well. And shout out for the Worlds format, it's actually bringing out some cards that I think are super useful for Tera Box, but that is for a much later video. For now, let's focus on what we've got going on here. This is the list that I have been playing with quite a bit, and I am really enjoying it. This list gives you so much freedom in your prize mapping and just the way you play the game. So let's spawn in a pen, like that. Damn, that was clean. Alright, so this list obviously is not the traditional Tera Box. So honestly, I'd say there's 3 versions of Tera Box that I've been kind of thinking of. The first one would be traditional Tera Box, right? You've got the Pika, you've got your E-switches and your Ogerpons and all that sort of stuff. Then you've got the Pidgeot version, which is like Pidgeot box, bird box, whatever, which is this version. And then you've got your basic box version, which I'll touch on briefly, would be something like this. So obviously not many people have really seen this yet, but I have been trying to like work on a Tera Box list just in case the Watchtower becomes incredibly played, and then Noctowl is just not good, and neither is Pidgeot. So if you guys remember, before rotation there was like a Grass Ogerpon Entei deck, and I think honestly we can kind of make it work now with Grass Ogerpon and Clefairy. Obviously that deck was already tried, but I think honestly we can make it work better now. And we've also got the Terapagos and the Iron Hands. Iron Hands is like just a way to get around the Shaymin and help out our 2/2 prize mapping. But regardless, moving on from that topic, let's get back to the reason for this video. So Pidgeot Tera Box is, in my opinion, the best way to play Tera Box right now, and that's because we get to abuse cards such as Dusknoir and Briar. And these cards are the reason that Shaymin is actually not that big of an issue. Let's take, for example, Dragapult. Dragapult does play Shaymin now, and it is one of those things that we just have to get around, realistically. So, how can we deal with Shaymin and Dragapult? Well, we can still utilize our Water Ogerpon. So, for example, we can use Water Ogerpon to take our first prize card of the game, we don't shuffle the energy back, and then from here, we take next turn probably another prize card, and they'll probably be benching the Fezandipity because they want to draw more cards, and that's just the whole spiel of the deck. Then we'll swing 120 into the Fez, because remember, Shaymin only protects non-rulebox Pokemon, so it doesn't actually protect the Fez, or the Mew, or the Clefairy, or anything like that. So then we can swing 120 into the Fez. Then our Ogerpon will probably go down, but from there, we can use our Dusknoir to clean up the Fezandipity, to take another 2 prize cards, and then we can use Clefairy to take the last 2 on the Dragapult, or anything like that, right? And then even if maybe we activate a second Dusclops to pop 50 onto something on the bench, and then activate Briar and Countercatcher, then we can even just kill the Shaymin with our Terapagos or whatever with the Briar, and just take R6 like that. So the whole thing with this deck is that you really want to set up those checkmate scenarios where you want to have that little bit slower early game. You don't have to like greed anything too bad, just that later on in the game you can set up that board state with the double Duskull or 1 Dusclops, 1 Duskull, and then pop the Evo into the Dusknoir, pop the Dusknoir, do 130 to something, Night Stretcher that Dusknoir back, Rare Candy, pop the second one, do another 130, and then activate your Briar and Countercatcher and everything like that. So I played a game against God of War. I'll put it up on screen now, kind of what happened. So they had a double Curlier, Shaymin, and a Cleffa inactive. God of War doesn't really play much Bidoof right now. So what happened was I went Candy into the Dusknoir, and then I popped the one Curlier on the bench. Then I went Night Stretcher, Candy into the second Dusknoir, pop the Shaymin on the bench, and then we went Water Ogerpon 120 into the Cleffa and 120 into the second Curlier on the bench to take 4 prize cards like that. So that's the whole thing. Against these Evo decks, we want to try and board wipe them. For like with Dragapult, another way we can do it was if we include Mew maybe, we could now have, for example, pretend this is Mew. We can now use our Genome Hacking with Clefairy on the bench to copy Phantom Dive for 400 damage, knock out the active Dragapult, and then use our Dusknoir and Dusclops. Let's say we Dusknoir one of the Dracloaks and we Dusclops the other, leaving it on 40 HP. We're using Genome Hacking, copying Dragapult's Phantom Dive, knocking out the active, and we can spread another 50 onto the... another 40 onto the Dracloak, and knocking that out, and still leaving us with 2 spread elsewhere. So, and like that's if they have to have like 3 Pokemon on bench now, and all 3 with energy, otherwise we're leaving them with either no Pokemon or no Pokemon with energy, and that's basically as good as winning the game. Some things that I would say are a bit of a threat would be the Garchomp. Garchomp, the matchup isn't great. I haven't lost to it yet, but I can definitely see myself losing to it soon, because the matchup is very sketchy. Waterpon is crucial in the matchup, especially early game, taking the 2 prize cards, and then later on in the game, you need to try and do some Dusknoir Briar shenanigans. But the thing is, if they're able to get to that 400 HP board state, it is really difficult to get through it, because even a Dusknoir plus a fully powered up bench of Trapagos isn't enough to knock it out. But we can use Clefairy. If we fill up our bench and their bench, then we can hit 280 on the Clefairy plus the 130 from the bomb, and that equals our 400 damage, right? It's 410, but we only need 400 there. So Clefairy is another one of those cards that we really need to focus on as well, and every card in this deck really puts in a lot of work. Moving into the supporters and stuff, we've got ourselves a Brock Scouting, which is a bit common nowadays in Tera Box, but we also have Jacques. And Jacques has helped me so much, because there's a lot of times where I just go, all right, Noctowl for a Jacques and a Rare Candy, and then I use a Jacques for a Pidgeot and Dusknoir, and then I Rare Candy into the Pidgeot, and then quick search for another Rare Candy into the Dusknoir, and that's turn 2 double stage 2 setup off of 1 Noctowl, right? So Jacques plus Rare Candy is a great combo. If you don't get Bidoof, right? If you do get Bidoof, then you kind of have to go Jacques for the Pidgeotto and the Dusclops, or the Pidgeotto and a second Noctowl, and the next turn you can use the Noctowl for the Brock, and you can get your Pidgeot online that way. So I've kind of just thought of how many ways can we guarantee that we have Pidgeot set up. So we are including the Pidgeotto. If you saw my Twitter, we weren't running the Pidgeotto or the Dusclops, but I think both of these stage 2s are just so important that you have to stress them in most matchups. So getting them set up is incredibly important. I've played a few games without Pidgeot, and those games just feel miserable. And for these, I did cut 1 Hoothoot and 1 Noctowl. The reason behind that is once you get your Pidgeot set up, you don't rely that heavily on Noctowls, but having Pidgeot set up every turn is honestly more valuable than having 1 extra Hoothoot and 1 extra Noctowl. The matchups that I would practice if I were you would be the Dragapult matchup, the Guardian matchup. These 2 matchups are pretty similar, except Dragapult does play the Bidoof, while God of War doesn't really. But the idea of the matchups is fairly similar. And then I'd also practice the Grimmsnarl matchup. The Grimmsnarl is also it's also similar to the Guardian Dragapult matchup, where you kind of want to use the Waterpon early. However, in this matchup, the bomb is incredibly important, because we want to target down their Monkeydories, and if we're able to do that, seeming as they deal damage themselves, what we can do actually is we can pop the Dusknoir and kill the Shaymin, and if they're ahead on prize cards, now we can go countercatch Monkeydory with Waterpon in play, and having counter gain attached. Remember to counter gain if you're behind, it counts as any colorless, so we just have to have one water and one of any other energy attached to it. And then we can go Torrential Pump, kill the active Monkey Dory, and kill the bench Monkey Dory. And seeming as we only do 100th active, it'll still die to the tick of the Frost Slash damage, and that is, yeah, also really important. And then from there, they usually can't return KO into our Waterpon, and if they do end up benching the Shaymin again, now we can go boss the Shaymin and then just soul block it for a bit, right? And while we build up our Duskull and Dusknoir to just do that play again. Briar plus Trapagos is also really strong in this matchup. So yeah, it's another thing, you kind of want to go 2-2-2, but a lot of the times you'll find yourself going like 1-1-4 or 1-1-3-1, right? So it is a bit of a sketchier matchup, but it is very winnable thanks to Pidgeot. You just have to be careful with the Devo, so in this matchup I definitely recommend trying to Evo through the Pidgeotto instead of just going straight Rare Candy. But yeah, so the matchup feels fine. It's winnable. It's not the most difficult thing. If it does become a threat, same as Garchomp and Charizard and all these other matchups, then I'd probably look at a list more similar to this one. This list focuses a lot more on the traditional build, right? You can see we're playing a Iron Leaves though, and Iron Leaves is our little answer to the Grimmsnarl matchup and the Charizard and the Zoroark and Garchomp. So this is where I think that I want to build a basic version of the deck, like without the Hoothoots and Noctowls and stuff, and just focus on the Ogerpons and attackers like the Iron Leaves and Pikachu and Trapagos, and stuff that we can just E-switch into a lot easier. So I definitely want to play around more with the basic version of the deck, as I think this deck and the Pidgeot deck have the most potential. The Pidgeot version of the deck is great right now, and I'm enjoying it a lot. I'll upload a gameplay video on it probably tomorrow or after tomorrow. This week is a little bit busy for me, and CapCut has removed some of my animations, so I don't know what's happened there, so the videos are going to be a little bit less quality while I try to figure out what's happening there. But from next week, uploads will be coming every 2 days or something like that, and I'll try and upload more Tera Box content and also just more variation of content. I'll have to do the vlog that I did from Johannesburg and from Durban, the SPEs in South Africa, but other than that, let me know, guys, what you think about the decks, what you'd include, what you'd exclude, because that's another thing. We just have to try and, you know, do it together, because Tera Box right now isn't in the best position, but it definitely has the potential to actually succeed and become a good deck. And it is still a good deck, just we have to play it well and try and find good lists. And that's another thing, like Lost Box, it's one of those Lost Box decks. Like, sure, Lost Box had counters, but it was never just a dead deck. Like, the deck always had answers, so just because we lose our Waterpon doesn't mean we just lose. Like, the deck is still a good deck. We still have access to one of the most broken cards in the game, being Noctowl, and just have an incredible engine like that. So, yeah. Alright, that's it for now, though. Peace.